This is season 2 of The Sweater with Kathleen Dames. Over the course of our 12-week season, we will knit the pearly pullover together. Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 6 of the podcast. This is The Sweater with Kathleen Dames. This season, we're knitting the pearly pullover together. And today, I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about splitting stitches apart to get ready to join everything together. So you may have been confused if you've never knit a sweater before, or if you haven't knit a sweater in the round especially, why I have you hold a few stitches on each side of the body of the sweater. This is the body, this is the body, and then a similar number for the sleeve. And what's going to happen is after we've brought everything together, we still want space here for our underarm. We don't want to, we want to have enough space there. And to make it comfortable, what we're going to do is we're going to Kitchener stitch. We're going to weave those stitches together. And that makes a really smooth fabric, nothing irritating, no seams under your arms, because that doesn't sound very comfortable. That doesn't sound very nice. So to do that, we need to set aside a certain number of stitches for each underarm. And there are four spots. That's number 4. 2 on the body on each side, and then matching ones on the sleeves. And we will match those up when we put everything back together to do the yoke. But first we need to set them aside. So I have already taken out my stitch marker for the body, but I can tell where the beginning of the round is because it's the ends of my circular needle, or what's left of it. It's on holders now. So what I'm going to do is get out some waste yarn. You know that acrylic that you first learned to knit with and then you shoved it in the back of your stash? It's a good thing you held on to it. It's perfect for holding the stitches, especially if it's like a worsted weight and you're working with the sort of thicker yarn, because it won't felt, it won't stick to your wool, and it'll slide through the stitches very nicely. And also the thicker yarn sort of holds those stitches open a little better, which I highly recommend, because when you're getting ready to weave the stitches together with Kitchener, if the stitches have sort of closed up and other parts have stretched out, it makes it harder to weave those nicely. So got my yarn, looking for my needle, and I'm going to get out a tapestry needle. A blunt tip tapestry needle is your best bet for this kind of thing. Okay, so I have my needle, and I have my yarn, and I have my sweater, or the body. And I don't even bother to cut the yarn at first. I just to cut the waste yarn. You can also put your stitches on a stitch holder, like one of those giant, what is it? What's it called? One of those giant safety pins. It looks like our kilt pin, but I find those are they're really stiff, and that makes it hard. In the first few rows after we join everything together, we're going to sort of be straining these stitches a little as we work around this larger circumference. And so I recommend using something flexible like waste yarn over a stitch holder. If you don't have anything else, use the stitch holder, but I definitely recommend waste yarn first, stitch holders as a sort of last resort. Okay, I'm gonna have to check my pattern to make sure. So we need to put aside, I think I'm putting aside 16 stitches. But we don't want to do them all, we want to make sure they're centered on the side. So we're going to do 8 stitches before, and we just are going to we're going to weave the yarn through, just put them through the stitches. Okay, so there's half. I've got my 8, and then I'll do the other half. Oh, I think that's 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, that's only 6. So I need 8. You should just go by the number for your size in the pattern, and of course it depends on what weight of yarn you're using. But there should be an even number before and after the beginning of round marker. Okay, so that's good. And I won't put the needle in my mouth so that I can keep talking to you. and I will cut the waste yarn, leave a bit, let it be loose. Like I said, the first few rounds after we join everything together are a little tough. So I shouldn't say tough. They just, we're asking this, everything's going around a slightly wider circumference. And so we're straining those underarm stitches a little. So if you put them on a nice big piece of waste yarn, they can stretch and flex as they should. Now, we'll do the same thing on the other side. I think that requires me to count stitches. So, which is always fun for you to watch. Instead, I'll do the sleeve. How's that? So I have my one sleeve, and it doesn't matter, I had turned it inside out to show you guys what it's going to look like. And I can do it from this position, or I can turn it back right side, or I should say original side out, because of course this is going to be, the purl side is going to be our right side when we are wearing our sweaters. So we'll do the same thing. There should be the same number of stitches. Sorry for that motorcycle, we're going to try that again. So we're going to do the same thing for the sleeve, and there should be the same number of stitches held for each sleeve for the underarm as there are for each side of the body. So everything should match up and be very matchy-matchy. Okay, so here we go. And I like to do the whole thing in one go, so I do have to count back out from the middle, which is what I just did, and I'm putting the needle through those 8 stitches and then through the next 8 stitches, because I like the waste yarn to be just a nice big loop. Again, that helps, you'll discover, when we are knitting the first few rounds. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and again I will, here, Jane's gonna hold my needle so I don't lose it, and I will cut the waste yarn, leaving a nice long stretch, and I just use a simple slip knot. And sometimes I save my my waste yarn and use it again for other sweaters, but sometimes it gets kind of raggy and then I get rid of it. So now I have my sleeve ready, and when the time comes for joining, and I'll talk about this more in the joining episode, which I believe is episode 8. Yes, so episode 8 we'll be talking about the yoke, and so we'll be talking about the joining too. But what's going to happen is I'm going to take the stitches that are on the waste yarn off of the needle, off of the holder, and they're just going to be held by the waste yarn. And so when I start to knit, I will start to knit with the first available stitch for the sleeve. And I'm going to turn this back right side out now so that I don't forget and accidentally attach the the sleeve to the body, and they aren't matching. So again, this is something that we really want to be matchy about. We want to match the sets of stitches being held, but we also want to make sure that we are matching the fabric so that everything is knit side out. Or if you are one of those talented Portuguese style knitters, or somebody else who just finds purling faster than knitting, you may be purling the whole thing, and just make sure you stay with everything purl side out. So when the time comes, again on the body, we'll also slide the stitches on the waste yarn off the needle before we begin, and you'll be able to see that we'll just match everything up. And I've got my yarn here. I'm actually going to break this. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to break the yarn. I'm going to go back after I finish talking to you. I'm going to go back before these 8 stitches, the first half of the held underarm stitches here, and I'm going to go back, and then the yarn will be waiting for me here. So I'm going to slip those. These will be half a row down, or row down, but it's okay, it's in the underarm. And then my yarn, my working yarn, will be ready, and I'll begin here, and this will become my new beginning of the round, and that'll be the back, right back here, this shoulder spot. And so I will begin by knitting across the sleeve stitches. I'll be placing a marker here where the sleeves join the body, and then I'll work across the front. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until I'm joining everything together to put these the second underarm stitches on my waste yarn. That'll make it a little easier for me. I can just count across the front, make sure I'm getting to the right spot, slip those stitches to waste yarn, add in the second sleeve, go across the back, and then place my marker for the beginning of the round. And I'll have my markers in place for the 4 points around the body where we're going to decrease for the yoke. We'll talk about that more in the yoke episode. But so right now I've got the body knit and one sleeve, and next week I'm going to be knitting my other sleeve. So I don't know how exciting that will be for you. It's exciting for me. I hope you're on to your second sleeve. If not, that's okay. Of course, if you're still working on the body, that's fine. Just keep going. Know that it's not that much further, and I hope you will find the yoke knitting as fun as I find it. I really find it. It brings everything together. It takes these pieces of fabric and makes them into a three-dimensional shape that will fit the body. There's usually a bunch of stuff going on. At the very least, there are decreases and shaping, and we're getting that much closer to having a finished sweater. So I'm excited for that, and I hope you are too. So in the pattern, I have you do the split round. I have done it a little differently, but it comes out to the same thing. And the split round, I have you go across and hold those first stitches for the underarm. It's actually better. So for the split round, basically what you're going to do is you're going to work across, and you're going to put you're going to work across. You're going to put these stitches on holder or waste yarn. I prefer waste yarn. And then you're going to go around to the other side, and you're not going to knit the stitches for this underarm, and you're just going to put them on the waste yarn, and your working yarn will be in the right spot on the body so that you can get started once we join everything together. So be sure to follow this in the pattern. I do tell you to break the yarn for the sleeves and not for the body, and there's a reason for that. Fewer ends to weave in. And when we get to it, when we get to the finishing episode, I will show you how I weave in the ends so that they're almost invisible, and so that you can wear this actually right side or wrong side out. So it's just a one little extra bit of work that's totally worth it. And you may discover that you prefer that for all of your sweaters. So that's everything for our split round. And next time I'll talk more about sleeve knitting. We'll talk a little bit more maybe about directions in knitting, making those increases right and left. Next time we're going to be talking about our second sleeve. Probably won't be a very long episode, but if you have more questions that I didn't answer in the live show, feel free to ask them, and I'll do my best to make feel free to ask them, and I'll be happy to share whatever else I can share with you in terms of knitting knowledge. After that, of course, we'll be getting to knitting the yoke and finishing the sweater, and it's all very exciting. So I hope you are enjoying your yarn, your needles, making your tubes of fabric, and getting to the point where we're going to turn it into an actual sweater. Until then, thank you so much for being here, and happy knitting. Mwah! Bye! This is Season 2 of The Sweater with Kathleen Dames. Over the course of our 12-week season, we will knit the Pearly Pullover together. Many thanks to Reem at Happy Fuzzy Yarns, Corinna at Picnic Knits, Tara Swiger and my fellow Starship captains, and you for being a part of The Sweater with Kathleen Dames. Don't forget to visit KathleenDames.com/thesweater to sign up for the newsletter before July 22nd to receive your free copy of the Pearly Pullover in your welcome email. Is it after July 22nd? Just not a joiner? Purchase your copy of the Pearly Pullover from my Ravelry shop anytime. Be sure to share your progress on social media with the hashtags Pearly Pullover and KD Sweater. Questions? Comments? Visit the Kathleen Dames Design for Ravelry forum today. Thanks so much for joining me, and happy knitting!